The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Welcome back to the Berean Pursuit. This is week 51, day 2. Today we're reading from Job chapters 15 through 17 and Revelation chapter 14. Last time in Job, we saw Job continuing his complaint against his friends as well as, in some ways, against God, and a desire to speak with God, and a desire to show that he has done nothing wrong, but also he's expressing trust in God. He says, even though he slay me, I will trust in him. And he's sure that God will be just, but right now it just doesn't seem like he is. And so Job really wants to know what the answers are to his questions for God. But now we're going to continue hearing from Job's friends in Job chapters 15 through 17. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, "Does a wise man answer with empty counsel or fill his belly with a hot east wind? Should he argue with useless words or speeches that serve no purpose? But you even undermine the fear of God and hinder meditation before him. For your iniquity instructs your mouth, and you choose the language of the crafty. Your own mouth, not mine, condemns you. Your own lips testify against you. Were you the first man ever born? Were you brought forth before the hills? Do you listen in on the counsel of God, or limit wisdom to yourself? What do you know that we do not? What do you understand that is not clear to us? Both the gray-haired and the aged are on our side, men much older than your father. Are the consolations of God not enough for you, even words spoken gently to you? Why has your heart carried you away, and why do your eyes flash as you turn your spirit against God, and pour such words from your mouth? What is man that he should be pure, or one born of woman that he should be righteous? If God puts no trust in his holy ones, if even the heavens are not pure in his eyes, how much less man who is vile and corrupt, who drinks injustice like water? Listen to me, and I will inform you. I will describe what I have seen, what was declared by wise men and was not concealed from their fathers, to whom alone the land was given, when no foreigner passed among them. A wicked man writhes in pain all his days. Only a few years are reserved for the ruthless. Sounds of terror fill his ears. In his prosperity, the destroyer attacks him. He despairs of his return from darkness. He is marked for the sword. He wanders about as food for vultures. He knows the day of darkness is at hand. Distress and anguish terrify him, overwhelming him like a king poised to attack. For he has stretched out his hand against God and has vaunted himself against the Almighty, rushing headlong at him with a thick studded shield. Though his face is covered with fat and his waistline bulges with flesh, he will dwell in ruined cities, in abandoned houses destined to become rubble. He will no longer be rich, his wealth will not endure, his possessions will not overspread the land. He will not escape from the darkness, the flame will wither his shoots, and the breath of God's mouth will carry him away. Let him not deceive himself with trust in emptiness, for emptiness will be his reward. It will be paid in full before his time, and his branch will not flourish. He will be like a vine stripped of its unripe grapes, like an olive tree that sheds its blossoms. For the company of the godless will be barren, and fire will consume the tents of bribery. They conceive trouble and give birth to evil. Their womb is pregnant with deceit. Then Job answered, I have heard many things like these. Miserable comforters are you all. Is there no end to your long-winded speeches? What provokes you to continue testifying? I could also speak like you if you were in my place. I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you, but I would encourage you with my mouth, and the consolation of my lips would bring relief. Even if I speak, my pain is not relieved, and if I hold back, how will it go away? Surely he has now exhausted me. You have devastated all my family. You have bound me, and it has become a witness. My frailty rises up and testifies against me. His anger has torn me and opposed me. He gnashes his teeth at me. My adversary pierces me with his eyes. They open their mouths against me and strike my cheeks with contempt. They join together against me. God has delivered me to unjust men. He has thrown me to the clutches of the wicked. I was at ease, but he shattered me. He seized me by the neck and crushed me. He has set me up as his target. His archers surround me. He pierces my kidneys without mercy and spills my gall on the ground. He breaks me with wound upon wound. He rushes me like a mighty warrior. I have sewn sackcloth over my skin. I have buried my horn in the dust. My face is red with weeping, and deep shadows ring my eyes. Yet my hands are free of violence, and my prayer is pure. O earth, do not cover my blood. May my cry for help never be laid to rest. Even now my witness is in heaven, and my advocate is on high. My friends are my scoffers, and my eyes pour out tears to God. Oh, that a man might plead with God as he pleads with his neighbor. For when only a few years are past, I will go the way of no return. My spirit is broken, my days are extinguished, the grave awaits me. Surely mockers surround me, and my eyes must gaze at their rebellion. Give me, I pray, the pledge you demand. Who else will be my guarantor? You have closed their minds to understanding, therefore you will not exalt them. If a man denounces his friends for a price, the eyes of his children will fail. He has made me a byword among the people, a man in whose face they spit. My eyes have grown dim with grief, and my whole body is but a shadow. The upright are appalled at this, and the innocent are stirred against the godless. Yet a righteous one holds to his way, and the one with clean hands grows stronger. But come back and try again, all of you, for I will not find a wise man among you. My days have passed, my plans are broken off, even the desires of my heart. They have turned night into day, making light seem near in the face of darkness. If I look for Sheol as my home, if I spread out my bed in darkness and say to corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, my mother or my sister, where then is my hope? Who can see any hope for me? Will it go down to the gates of Sheol? Will we go down together into the dust? And now to the New Testament, let's read Revelation chapter 14. Last time in Revelation in chapter 13, we saw this beast that came up out of the sea, which pretty clearly represents Rome, or an emperor of Rome. And we saw how there was another beast that came out of the earth that had horns like a lamb but spoke like a dragon. And the dragon was the one giving the first beast his authority. And that dragon is Satan, as we saw in the previous chapter. We also saw that this second beast was causing people to worship the first beast. He was using false signs and things like that. And anybody who did not worship the beast was killed, or they were not allowed to buy or sell. They couldn't do business in that society. But while it seemed like to many that this beast was a god, they worshipped him as a god, but to the Christians, they realized that he was just a man, and his number was the number of a man, number 666. And that's what it means. It's talking about him being a man, a particular man, but that's all it is. There's no mark somebody can just put on you and it does anything to you. It is the mark of ownership. That's the idea, just like the mark of God that we saw earlier, that you can't actually literally see. The mark of 666, the mark of the beast, you can't literally see. It's not on barcodes. It's not on anything. It's not on microchips. That's not the idea. The idea is these are the people who belong to the beast, who worship the beast. As long as you're a worshiper of God and nobody else, you don't have the mark of the beast. All right, but let's continue our reading in Revelation chapter 14. Then I looked and saw the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a sound from heaven like the roar of many waters, and the loud rumbling of thunder. And the sound I heard was like harpists strumming their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn the song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who have not been defiled with women, for they are virgins. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They have been redeemed from among men as firstfruits to God and to the Lamb, and no lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. Then I saw another angel flying overhead with the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation and tribe and tongue and people. And he said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship the one who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the springs of waters." Then a second angel followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, who has made all the nations drink the wine of the passion of her immorality." And a third angel followed them, calling out in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives its mark on his forehead or on his hand, he too will drink the wine of God's anger, poured undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he will be tormented in fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. Day and night there is no rest for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. Here is a call for the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven telling me to write, "Blessed are the dead, those who die in the Lord from this moment on. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labors, for their deeds will follow them." And I looked and saw a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like the Son of Man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Then another angel came out of the temple, crying out in a loud voice to the one seated on the cloud, "Swing your sickle and reap, because the time has come to harvest, for the crop of the earth is ripe." So the one seated on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was harvested. Then another angel came out of the temple in heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. Still another angel with authority over the fire came from the altar and called out in a loud voice to the angel with a sharp sickle, "Swing your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes from the vine of the earth, because its grapes are ripe." So the angel swung his sickle over the earth and gathered the grapes of the earth, and he threw them into the great winepress of God's wrath. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and the blood that flowed from it rose as high as the bridles of the horses for a distance of 1,600 stadia. All right, in our reading today, we saw that Eliphaz responded to Job, and he was certainly not happy with Job. He said that what Job was saying would hinder meditation towards God and fear of God. In other words, if you say that you haven't sinned and this is happening to you, then that's going to damage the way people think about God and fear God. And he says, you can't be pure. It's not possible. Even the angels are held guilty, and God isn't going to hold you guiltless. You're a human. You must be vile and corrupt. Well, some people have that idea that, well, if you're human, then you sin, and you must sin. But Job didn't, and that's important. God said Job did not sin. And it's important that we recognize that there is no such thing as a sinful nature. That's one of the things Job, the book of Job, deals with, that there really is no such thing. That's kind of what Eliphaz thought. He thought man has a sinful nature. If you're human, you're going to sin. Job didn't. Now, I believe Job had sinned at some point in his life, but he's not just corrupt in his nature. He turns away from evil. He actually does what is good. That was recognized by God himself. And Eliphaz is refusing to recognize that that's even a possibility. But one of Eliphaz's big mistakes is that he says, you're not ancient. The people who are older than your father agree with us. Well, people use that kind of argument today, and it's just as useless today. What God has said, what is true, is important, not what people have been saying for generations, because quite frankly, you'll find people who disagree with each other as far back as you can go. But even if they all agreed, that wouldn't make it true. What God says is true. That's what we have to rely on, not what ancient people have said. But Job then comes back and talks about how miserable they are as comforters. He says, I could do the same thing if you were in my shoes, but I wouldn't. I would actually comfort you. And I believe it. I believe he actually would. But he says, you've just been terrible at this job of coming here and comforting me. But then he turns his frustration to God again and talks about how God has devastated him, devastated his family, how he has turned the wicked against Job and allowed the wicked to conquer over Job, which if we connect that with what we've been reading in Revelation, he allowed that in that case too with the beast that was conquering the saints, at least for a time. And Job is really without hope at this point. There is hope for Job and things will get much better, but he doesn't know that. And right now, he just feels like everything good is over. He's depressed. He has no hope. He doesn't see how there can be any hope at this point. He's just going to die miserable. But that's not going to happen, thankfully. And we are going to see that God treats the righteous differently than the wicked. But in the moment, it's not always that obvious. Then in Revelation chapter 14, we read about the 144,000. The last time we saw them, they were on earth. They were those that were faithful to the Lord and received the seal, the mark of ownership by God. And now they have been redeemed from the earth. They are in heaven with God. They died in this persecution from the beast, but they remained faithful. And so they have this song nobody can learn except for them. I think the idea there is just that there's a special reward for them because of the special thing that they went through with the Lord. But now they're receiving a great reward. They're happy in heaven, even though they suffered on earth. But now, because of their faithfulness, they're receiving a reward. But the one that did this to them, Babylon the Great, that is falling, and the wrath of God is being poured out on it. Now, as far as I can tell, this is a reference to Rome. He just talked about Rome pretty clearly in chapter 13 with the beast. And Babylon, well, that would make sense if that's referring to Rome, because it's a nation like Babylon, a city that rules over a big empire like Babylon was. And it makes sense. Some people still believe that Babylon here refers to Jerusalem, and that's fine. I don't think it makes a big difference one way or the other. But the idea is that this city, this nation that persecuted God's people, that killed them, even though they are now happy in heaven with God, the ones that did the persecuting are falling, and they are drinking the cup of God's wrath. And so this is why the saints are called on to persevere. It's going to be worth it. If they remain faithful, it's going to be great. Blessed are those who die in the Lord from this moment on, because it's better for them to die and have rest from their labors than to be among those receiving the wrath of God who turned away from the Lord. And so we have the picture of the winepress, the wrath of God being poured out, and blood flowing as high as the bridles of the horses for 1,600 stadia, a huge area. That's a huge amount of blood. Not realistic in any way, but that's the picture of the wrath being poured out, this great judgment of God. All right, well, that's the reading for today. Join me again tomorrow, as Lord willing. We'll continue on with this Berean pursuit.